Hey everyone, Brandon here with Galway Precision. Today we're going to go over the installation of the Jefe flat-faced trigger for the Canik SF Elite models. Alright, main difference in our design I'd like to point out right off the bat. Notice we have two pins in the stock trigger. Okay, this one's for the safety blade, this one's actually for the trigger pin, or trigger bar pin I should say. We eliminated that. There's really no need for it, so we went ahead and made one hole. So what you'll get when it comes to you is you'll get the trigger with the safety blade spring already installed, plus the safety blade, which you notice has got a nice little pocket right there, lines right up on it. And you will reuse the trigger bar pin in its place. So tools you're going to need your right angle pick. You're going to need a set of hemos, small tweezers, or fine needle nose pliers. May or may not need them. We'll get into that later. Small flathead screwdriver, 3 30-second punch, 2 mm punch, and a 1/16 punch, brass and polymer hammer, and the dreaded Dremel. Just like the other Canik, it's the same issue here. As you can see, what I did on ours is I just beat it through without thinking about it initially. Obviously, we don't want you guys to do that. The shelf on this is a whole lot thicker, so your best bet is to have a 1/16 that has a little bend to it like this, so you can just drive it out. All right, so let's go ahead and lock and clear. You're visually and physically empty. Set the slide off to the side. All right, first we're going to start with our frame pins. There is one thing to note on the frame pins on the SF Elite. When you go to set them off to the side, make sure that you separate them because the longer one goes in the front with the locking block, and the shorter one goes in the back through the fire control unit. It's very easy to get them confused. If you do, it's not the end of the world. It will just add a little extra work at the end because you got to turn around and swap them back because this pin will stick way out on both sides, cut into your hand while you're shooting. All right, so our 1/16 punch, like I said, we want to come from here if we can and drive it out this way. Let's say you can't get the angle right or anything, that's where your Dremel's going to come into place. Again, about 15 to 20,000 RPM. You don't need more than that. We don't want to go crazy. Because all we're doing is making a little channel for us to be able to drive the pin out. And we'll go back later, and you can go back later and clean that up with some fine sandpaper. That creates a channel that you can actually get to the pin with. Alright, now the pin's just going to pop right on out. Easy peasy. Now, the dreaded pin. The slide lock. I'm not going to lie to you, I had to drill ours out. With 1/16 and replace it. That is something we're actually looking at a design for to make a different slide lock possibly. Just for the reason that people are wanting to upgrade this pistol, whether it's with our parts or somebody else's parts. This has been the main complaint. Pressing it out is pretty much a non-starter. I tried that, can't get a good enough angle. Ended up drilling it out. So if you got one that's stuck, stop. Let us know before you go any further, because talking to Canik both before SHOT Show and at SHOT Show, their thing is it is supposed to drive out from the bottom with a 1/16 punch through the top. If you notice, before I gouged it out with the drill, there's actually a channel. There'll be a channel on yours that it's supposed to be able to drive out. Alright, ours I had to drill out. Keep that in mind. If you have to drill yours out, like I said, stop. Email me immediately. There was someone on YouTube putting in a different trigger. They did say that when they had to drill theirs out, they emailed Canik about it and were able to get a new slide lock assembly, which is both arms go act as the trigger pivot as well and go through. I had to take that off, set it off to the side, and the new pin. All right, so we're gonna drive that pin out. Like I said, they told us it should go bottom to top, top to bottom, either way it should move. Ours did not. We drilled it. If you got to drill yours, stop, email me. All right, so now that that's out, I'm gonna take our flathead, we're gonna pop that off, set it off to the side. As you can see, I had to hand drill this out because we couldn't even chuck it up to mill it out because of the odd shape of the grip frame and the slide lock. So that's what makes it a real pain to have to drill this out. If you end up deciding to drill it out, go slow, slow, slow. It's a roll pin. Spring steel. Spring steel's usually pretty hard. Make sure you have a carbide bit. Tin coated ain't gonna cut it. High speed steel ain't gonna cut it. Get you a carbide bit, you'll be good to go. Just very, very, very slow because it's very easy for that drill to want to walk. All right, I'm gonna take that off. We're gonna hold our detent for the takedown. Push the bar, pull it out just like we do on the other Canics. And take your detent and spring, set that off to the side. Now we're going to take our 3/32. We're going to start pushing. Once you get it pushed, you'll notice the spring locks on it. Take the spring, pop it over the side. Push it down under out of the way. It's not going to hurt the spring. Slide the takedown out. Now we're going to take our flathead and we're going to pry up on the locking block. Notice the spring is going to come with it like all the other Canik pistols. The slide lock spring goes into a hole in the frame and let it rest there. Again, just like the V2 install earlier, while this spring is much larger, it's still easy to lose. So make sure you're very cognizant of where you put this. Don't drop it, or you're going to spend a lot of time looking for this little guy. All right, so now I'm ready to pull the fire control unit and the trigger. All right, so we can set the frame off to the side for the moment. I can take the trigger bar out. You're going to take your 2mm punch. You're only driving out the center pin, not the top pin, only the center pin. Now, even before we started all this, I was able to push that out by hand. You may not be able to, no big deal. Give it a few taps. Don't beat on it. Just give it some good downward force and it should come right out. So we're done with our stock trigger. Let's go ahead and lay that off to the side. Now we're going to take this pin. I'm going to take our safety blade and our new Jefe and make sure the blade's lined up. Start pushing it through. If you're having a hard time getting it to line up, you can come from the opposite side with your 2mm, because that's a great thing. You can actually see what's going on in the back. Use it as a slave pin to get it going. More than likely in the next couple weeks these will probably all come pre-assembled, but for right now people are really clamoring for this thing, so we got to get it out there. All right, we're through. Make sure, see how I'm pushing it back some, just enough so that we've got clearance for the trigger bar. And before we put the trigger bar in, push the safety blade, make sure it's moving correctly. We're going to take our trigger bar, get it lined up, push it on through, tap it from the other side, and then of course we're going to take our 2mm and we're going to make sure we are equidistant on both sides so it's not sticking out either side. Okay, just like that. Now we're ready to go back to reassembling. So just like the other install videos, I do the same thing. I like to go ahead and take the trigger bar, get the trigger return spring hooked, and reinstall everything. Make sure your trigger is flat up and down, straight up and down, flat, whatever. You know what I mean. So that when you reinstall everything, everything's sitting right. Now obviously we haven't put anything in yet, but we just want to make sure that that's moving freely. Alright, so now let's go ahead and put our short roll pin back in. And what's the favorite word? Equidistant. Both sides so you don't cut your hand up. Let's go ahead and just another little tap or two. Alright. Now we're ready to put the slide lock / trigger pivot back in. Now when you go to do this, notice there's a hole in the frame that it goes into. What we're doing here, we're not putting everything back together yet. We're test fitting. Make sure that's in there. Make sure it moves freely. We don't have any slop to anything, and that's moving correctly. All right, so we can go ahead and take that back out. We're going to take our slide lock spring, place it in the frame, let it go all the way down like that, and take our locking block. Go ahead and get it started. Make sure you keep your thumb over the spring for the slide lock. Push that all the way down. Sometimes you got to give it a little tap, sometimes you don't. This one's been apart so many times we don't anymore. Now we're going to take our slide lock / trigger pivot. Go ahead and put it on through. When you get it to this point, take your right angle pick. And you're just going to take that spring. That doesn't want to cooperate with me. I'm going to pop it up over that part of the slide lock, that tab. That makes sure that it goes back down the way it should and it's proper tensions on it. I'm going to take the other part of our slide lock, put it on, take our pin for it, get it started, take your 1/16, start pushing it in, and then you're going to give it a couple taps. Alright. I know this is random in the middle of all this, but we're also bugging Canik nonstop, Canik USA at least, about doing an armorer's course for these pistols so that we can at least get certified with them, but also see exactly how they're taking these apart and putting them back together at their repair facility. So hopefully we get some traction there. All right, now we're going to take our locking block pin, go ahead and put it back. Again, magic word of the day, equidistant. All right. Now we're ready to put the the takedown back in. Let's take your spring and your takedown detent. Now on this one, the spring sits a lot better in the detent. Nice and tight. Get it on in there. Compress it. Always make sure that the tapered end is down, flat end is up. And when you're reinstalling this side, make sure that the serrated edge is, or side, I should say, is out, not in. Go ahead and get it there and then push it down. Give it a couple taps so it seats. So now we are ready to reassemble and function test. So go ahead and take your slide, put it on. Alright, first things first, without depressing the safety blade, pull the trigger. Trigger won't fall. Depress safety blade, striker falls. While you're holding the trigger to the rear, rack it, reset, and there you go. That's the travel once you get your reset down. Now, a lot of people have already asked, why didn't you take more reset out? Well, due to the way that the trigger swing is in this thing, we can't take as much pre-travel out as we'd like. We've actually taken probably 15 to 20% of the pre-travel out, and I'd say closer to 20% of the post-travel out. So it's a much shorter stroke. With the trigger blade sitting lower on the flat face, it also forces you to use the trigger correctly. But I mean, it maintains the nice short reset that this pistol has. It's making me really start to like it. But you also have to have the ability of the full swing. Mostly just because from a safety standpoint, you got to have the safety blade out. We can't just make something that's that short, because then there'd be no safety blade. There'd be no way for it to actuate. So got to have that safety blade. It's only safety on the pistol. But other than that people have asked, I think everyone's going to be very happy with this. I am. This thing's always been a riot to shoot. It impressed me when we first got it. It impresses me more every day that I play with it, that I shoot it, and that we prototype parts for it. The initial ones are going to be printed, obviously, from the same ballistic nylon, carbon fiber filled nylon that all our other stuff's printed from. But if we get enough people who want it, we'll offer a premium version that will be aluminum. We may look at some premium skeletonized versions. We don't know yet. We just want to get this out there to the people that want it, that are looking to upgrade their carry mechanic and really take it to the next level. And I gotta say, this with our 24-pound guide rod plus 2 extension, I carry this thing. And you saw in the previous video what I carry. I carry Springfield EMP 4-inch 9mm. I would carry this all day long with our upgrades in it. I mean, it's really, really a nice pistol. Real excited about some of the things Canik's going to be doing. We spoke with them in Instructor Zero while we were at SHOT, and there is a subcompact in the future that they're just waiting to get approval for importation. And the moment that happens, it's probably going to take off in a big way, I'd say, because again, this pistol's been a sleeper hit. I think a lot of us in the gun community wrote it off initially, and the design's solid, the internals are nice and solid. Yes, we know it all looks internally the same as someone with a big W in their name, but honestly, out of the two, not just because of the price, I prefer the Canik. It feels stouter, feels better, stronger built, heavier material, and it just feels like it can take a beating, whereas the other ones I've handled don't feel that way. All right, and that's going to wrap it up, guys. Oh, one last thing before I forget, what the hemos are for. I'm sure people are like, well, why do we have that in the list? If you can't get this sprung on the trigger bar, or you have a hard time, your small, fine needle nose, some hemos, some tweezers is going to be the best thing to grab this and respring it to either side. And so that's it. That's going to wrap this one up, guys. If you have any questions, feel free to email me at that's Tango Echo Charlie Hotel at GallowayPrecision.com. Be sure to follow us on social media here on YouTube. Like, comment, and subscribe below. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Vimeo. Be sure to go by the website or the Facebook page and sign up for the newsletter. You'll get one a month showing all the new stuff coming out. This for February. A lot of Canik stuff's going to be in there that we're coming out with. And then the weekly flash sale. Every week we put something on a flash sale. You guys get 10-20% off sometimes, a couple bucks off here and there. But nobody knows unless you get the newsletter. You're the first ones to know. When we release the newsletter, I don't let it out on social media until a day or two later. Alright, so that's going to wrap it up, guys. If you got any questions, email me. And that's going to be it. So as always, be safe, be accurate, and God bless.